Wes Eden is taking on one of the most interesting and audacious projects in transportation in the United States right now. He's got a big idea about bringing back private passenger rail to the United States, something that hasn't really been a reality in the U.S. in the post-World War II era.
We have the greatest freight transportation system in the world, and yet we have essentially very, very limited rail options. You know, the Northeast Corridor, there's small pockets of it. There hasn't been a privately trained, financed, and built in this country in 125 years. When we talk about rail travel, we're not talking about commuter lines. What really works economically are the too far to drive, too short to fly. So 250 miles, a 4-hour drive, a 5-hour drive, a 6-hour drive, a trip to the airport where you're going to spend more time in the airport than you're going to spend on the plane actually flying, Los Angeles to Las Vegas, Houston to Dallas, Portland to Seattle, St. Louis to Chicago. There's a number of different routes that have exactly the same characteristics of these ones in Europe and in Asia that have been so, so productive and so profitable. So I think it's the surest bet in the world that these are going to work out and work out very well.
His project is really big. It's approximately $5 billion to construct a high-speed rail system from a distant Los Angeles suburb to Las Vegas, 180 miles of track running alongside U.S. Interstate 15. Ideally, groundbreaking will begin at the end of 2020. Trains running at top speeds of as much as 200 miles an hour in some sections.
The route from Las Vegas to Los Angeles has to be one of the most attractive train lines in the world because it is, without a doubt, one of the lousiest drives you can ever imagine. I think in certain respects it's the most intuitive train line in the world because you've got one of the great destinations for leisure in the world, Las Vegas, and one of the great population centers in Southern California. It's remarkable that it hasn't already been done before.
Currently, his company Brightline operates a regional rail system that runs about 67 miles in South Florida between West Palm Beach and Miami. That's been in operation for a couple of years, but his company is already expanding that all the way up to Orlando.
The very successful long-haul train systems in the world match up two populations that are dense, where there's a lot of reasons for people to travel between them. And they have characteristics that include both business reasons for purposes for people to travel, as well as tourism. When you look at Orlando to Miami, they fit exactly these characteristics.
In total, both the rail projects in Florida and California and Nevada will cost approximately $9 billion to build. Of that amount, Wes Eden, who himself is a billionaire, is committing at least $100 million of his own money, he tells Forbes. He and his company anticipate that they could see 20 million riders annually by 2026. The estimate is that could generate about $1.6 billion of revenue with operating profit of almost $1 billion. This is a very high margin business once you're up and running. This is really quite a bold gamble on the part of Mr. Eden's and his companies because there's nothing like this right now. He has secured exclusive right-of-way to build his trains, which means he owns the track, he owns the route, and has no competition whatsoever. So in that sense, it's a very compelling competitive advantage, but it remains to be seen if all of these millions of passengers will actually come and ride the train in the numbers that he thinks that they're going to.
I think that our train systems can become the Hoover Dam of this generation and not only provide essential infrastructure that's very valuable and great investments, but also a tremendous number of jobs for people that really need jobs at a difficult time.
This is going to be a very interesting multi-year project to keep an eye on. In the wake of the COVID-19 crisis, it could be a very interesting one because it will create thousands and thousands of construction jobs. And then after construction is completed, a few thousand service and maintenance jobs and jobs for staff operating the trains themselves. So there will be a good bit of employment generated as a result of this.